The Amish became proficient gardeners without relying on machines, chemicals, or contemporary devices. These 50 proven gardening techniques will transform my backyard space, making me wonder why I hadn't discovered them earlier. Let's explore them. Place a copper penny in pots. For generations, the Amish have prized straightforward, organic answers to gardening problems. A particular technique includes putting copper pennies into plant containers, an approach now widely adopted outside their circles. If I place a clean penny in the soil prior to planting, it functions as an inherent protection against undesirable fungi. The principle underlying this hack is intriguing. Copper ions gradually seep into the earth, fostering conditions where mold and mildew find it difficult to thrive. This essentially provides a miniature protector for my plant's roots, operating around the clock to maintain health. Numerous garden enthusiasts invest heavily in store-bought fungicides, yet this single-cent remedy could be sufficient for my needs. I just have to remember to wash the penny beforehand. While that green tarnish might seem fashionably retro, it offers no benefit to my plant's vitality. And should my pennies continually vanish, perhaps a conversation with my feline friend regarding his recent coin acquisition habit is in order. Water plants with cooled boiled egg water. The next occasion I boil eggs for my morning meal, I won't pour that water away. Instead, I'll channel my inner resourceful farmer and reserve it for my plants. The waste not, want not mindset of the Amish community fits perfectly with this environmentally sound method. As the eggs boil, the water gets fortified with calcium, providing a natural additive that assists plants in forming more robust cell structures. I think of it as a kind of plant smoothie for my vegetation, without the costly protein mix and elaborate container. This nutrient-dense liquid is especially advantageous for tomatoes and peppers, plants frequently plagued by calcium shortages. To achieve optimal results, I let the water cool entirely prior to application. My plants dislike scalding baths just as much as I would detest an icy shower. Research indicates that plants nourished with egg water exhibit 15% stronger development compared to those receiving standard watering. Use leftover tea as fertilizer. Did I realize my morning Earl Grey could serve a dual function? Once I've finished my tea, the spent leaves possess a secondary role in my garden. Inspired by conventional agricultural methods, such as those employed by the Amish, who advocate for utilizing all resources fully, tea leaves can become potent nourishment for plants. The key is found in the tannins and assorted nutrients persisting in the used foliage. I just distribute the cooled leaves around my plants or enter the whole tea bag close to the root system. The leaves gradually break down, dispensing their benefits into the ground, much like a slow-release vitamin capsule. An intriguing piece of information unfamiliar to many gardeners: green tea leaves hold nearly 4 times more nitrogen than coffee grounds, rendering them particularly beneficial for foliage-heavy plants. I do recall taking out any staples from tea bags prior to placing them in my garden. My plants favor their brew free of metallic additions. Enrich soil with coffee grounds. The majority of individuals discard their spent coffee grounds, yet horticultural knowledge transmitted across generations, encompassing Amish communities, points to a more advantageous application for me. These remnants deliver a significant nitrogen boost, ideal for improving my garden soil quality. Researchers have determined that coffee grounds possess roughly 2% nitrogen by volume. While this figure may seem minor, it precisely meets my plant's requirements. I distribute them near the plant bases or incorporate them into my compost heap. I just need to exercise moderation, since an excessive amount can render the soil overly acidic. An elderly farmer I knew quipped that his tomatoes became so stimulated by caffeine, they harvested themselves at dawn. Though perhaps an exaggeration, coffee grounds genuinely contribute to fostering the type of lush, productive soil where plants flourish. My earthworms will appreciate it too. They enjoy breaking down coffee grounds nearly as much as we humans enjoy consuming the beverage. Start seedlings in eggshells. Employing eggshells as miniature plant containers may seem like an idea straight off Pinterest to me, yet it represents a proven method any Amish gardener would commend. A halved eggshell serves as an ideal, decomposable starting pot for my seedlings. The procedure is uncomplicated. I crack eggs with care, preserving the bigger portion, wash them, and create a tiny drain opening at the base. I fill them with soil, sow my seeds, and observe nature's handiwork. The true brilliance lies in the fact that once my seedlings are prepared for the garden, I can plant the entire unit, shell included. As the shell decomposes, it imparts calcium to the soil, providing my young plants with an additional advantage. Should anyone inquire about the presence of eggs in my garden, I'll simply inform them I'm attempting to cultivate an omelet tree. The bewildered expressions are invaluable. Save and dry seeds. Well before the advent of garden supply stores, groups such as the Amish mastered the skill of preserving seeds. It resembles constructing a time vault containing my garden's top performers. The key for me is selecting seeds from my most robust and fruitful plants, the high achievers, yielding the most succulent tomatoes or crispest cucumbers. Post-collection, I ensure they are completely dried in a cool, unlit location. Dampness is the adversary in this situation. A single droplet could transform my meticulously saved seeds into a failed scientific endeavor. Certain cultivators claim germination rates reaching 90% for correctly kept seeds, versus only 60% for seeds purchased commercially. I mark all items distinctly, unless I relish the unexpected outcome of sowing presumed carrots that mature into pumpkins. I keep them in paper packets or glass containers, and a valuable collection awaits my gardening exploits next spring. Compost kitchen scraps. Converting kitchen refuse into valuable garden material is a method extending back many hundreds of years. Those banana skins, coffee remnants, and apple centers I've been discarding could instead nourish my garden. The Amish have refined this zero-waste strategy, converting approximately 75% of their cooking leftovers into fertile compost. I layer my kitchen discards with dry foliage, lawn cuttings, and a bit of earth in a container or mound. The natural decomposition cycle begins as microbes dismantle the organic matter into the dark, friable compost frequently termed black gold by growers like me. This transformation may last between 2 and 6 months, contingent on my local weather and the frequency of turning the heap. My grandmother often remarked her compost heap resembled a daytime drama, considerable activity occurring unseen, featuring billions of microbes in starring roles. I just need to be sure to exclude meat and dairy products from my heap, unless I aim to organize a local raccoon gathering. Scatter hair for pest control. Deep within Amish territory, cultivators like me have employed a peculiar yet efficient pest repellent, human hair. Prior to disregarding this as folklore, I reflect on this. Research confirms that deer and rabbits deliberately steer clear of zones where human odor is present. I just gather hair from my brush, or, if feeling enterprising, from my local barbershop, and disperse it along the garden's edge. While breaking down, hair emits nitrogen into the earth, providing a dual benefit of pest deterrence and soil enrichment. A single fistful of hair holds sufficient nitrogen to nourish 1 square foot of garden area for as long as 6 months. Additionally, I'll possess a ready explanation when inquiries arise about missing hair accessories. They are obviously integral to my elaborate garden defense network. Rotate crops to preserve soil nutrients. The idea of rotating crops may appear sophisticated to me, but essentially, it's just a game of musical chairs for vegetation. Adhering to classic Amish agricultural knowledge, relocating my crops to varied locations each growing season maintains soil vitality and output. Different plant varieties extract distinct nutrients from the earth, while certain ones, such as peas and beans, contribute back by replenishing nitrogen. A standard sequence I might use could involve shifting from nutrient-demanding plants like tomatoes to nitrogen-enriching beans, succeeded by less demanding crops like carrots. Studies demonstrate that correct crop rotation boosts harvests by as much as 20% and diminishes pest issues by 30%. The challenge for me lies in remembering the planting history. Some growers sketch diagrams, whereas I might depend on recall and find unforeseen vegetables emerging in odd spots. Perhaps this contributes to the term growing experience. Use broken terracotta pots as markers. If life hands me fractured pots, I fashion them into garden labels. This inventive notion captures the Amish ethos of repurposing damaged items. Those fragmented terracotta containers, usually destined for my trash, can be transformed into delightful, weather-resistant plant identifiers. I just inscribe the plant names onto the shards using a permanent pen and insert them into the earth beside each corresponding plant. Their inherent orange-brown hue harmonizes beautifully with my garden's look, and in contrast to plastic labels, they resist fading or splitting under sunlight. A smart gardener I know mentioned her terracotta indicators have endured for 5 years thus far. I need to exercise caution when dealing with the sharp fragments. I wouldn't want my labeling efforts to result in a "which digit requires dressing" scenario. And perhaps, just maybe, my awkward mishaps in the garden were inadvertently schooling me for this imaginative reuse initiative all this time. Bury fish scraps for fertilization. The age-old technique of boost plants with manure tea. Preparing manure tea may not rank as the most appealing garden chore for me, yet the Amish understand that optimal solutions sometimes lack aesthetic charm. This nutrient-packed concoction results from soaking mature manure in water, yielding a fluid plant food that my vegetation adores. I place thoroughly decomposed manure into a fabric sack, immerse it in water, and allow it to infuse for multiple days, akin to brewing the globe's least tempting tea beverage. The subsequent fluid holds condensed nutrients readily taken up by plant roots. I water it down to resemble pale tea prior to feeding my plants. A single 5-gallon preparation can sustain my whole garden for numerous weeks. I just need to be mindful to store this unique mixture well apart from my usual tea supplies. Confusing the containers might result in a gardening anecdote I'd struggle to ever forget. Practice companion planting. Certain plants simply flourish in proximity, much like a long-wedded pair who have learned to enhance one another flawlessly. Borrowing from conventional Amish agricultural techniques, I practice companion planting, which involves grouping plants that mutually support their growth. Tomatoes paired with basil represent the garden's dynamic duo. Basil enhances tomato taste and wards off pests, with both appearing more content side by side in my experience. Marigolds alongside vegetables form another successful partnership, as the blooms serve as inherent pest management. Studies indicate that gardens employing companion planting encounter as much as 40% fewer pest difficulties compared to monoculture plots. Even carrots and onions coexist harmoniously. The potent aroma of onions disorients carrot flies, whereas carrots assist in repelling onion nuisances. It resembles operating a plant-based introduction agency where all parties gain. I just refrain from situating beans close to onions. That particular pairing tends to fare about as well as a feline attempting to make friends with a lawn sprinkler. Grow potatoes in barrels. The Amish recognized long ago that superior gardens occasionally expand vertically rather than horizontally. Cultivating potatoes within barrels resembles a game of Jenga using edibles. I continually layer and supplement, ultimately achieving a significant victory with a container brimming with potatoes. I initiate by positioning seed potatoes at the barrel's base along with some earth, subsequently adding further soil as the vegetation develops. With every soil addition, the potato plant generates additional tubers along its submerged stalk. A single barrel has the potential to produce as much as 100 pounds of potatoes within an area where conventional techniques might only return 20 for me. My neighbor experimented with this approach and reported his potato yield was so plentiful, he contemplated launching a French fry enterprise. The highlight? Upon reaching harvest season, I simply invert the barrel and gather my bounty, akin to uncovering a pirate's coffer packed with consumable treasure. Mix tiny seeds with cornmeal. Dispersing minuscule seeds uniformly was once as challenging for me as attempting to tally grains of sand until an ingenious trick emerged from an Amish group. By blending fine seeds with cornmeal, I transform those almost imperceptible particles into visible matter that I can spread consistently. The light yellow cornmeal functions as a medium, simplifying my task of identifying areas already planted and those requiring further seeding. Horticultural experiments indicate this technique boosts germination success by as much as 30% over standard direct sowing. Additionally, the cornmeal aids in avoiding aggregation, guaranteeing my carrots don't develop in bunches more compact than adolescents at a music event. Furthermore, any seeds pilfered by birds arrive with a free morning meal, although as a grower, I'd rather retain both seeds and cornmeal for their designated use. Collect rainwater for irrigation. Collecting rainwater benefits not only my garden but also my finances. Emulating the eco-conscious methods of Amish groups, positioning containers beneath my downpipes can gather vast quantities of complementary, additive-free water annually. Research indicates a standard roof surface can capture upwards of 600 gallons of water from a mere 1 inch of precipitation. Different from municipal water, rainwater lacks chlorine and fluoride, positioning it as the premium choice for my plant watering. The inherent acidity of the water enhances nutrient accessibility for plant roots, promoting more vigorous growth. A fellow gardener I know quipped that his rainwater storage became so large, neighbors began referring to his place as the aquatic center. I just need to remember to shield my containers with mesh to exclude mosquitoes, unless establishing a backyard insect haven is my goal. Clean tools with vinegar. My gardening implements resemble steadfast companions. I maintain them properly, and their service life extends significantly. Drawing inspiration from Amish artisanship, where equipment frequently passes through family lines, an elementary vinegar soak maintains my garden tools in excellent shape. Immersing corroded tools in white vinegar for several hours disintegrates rust and dirt more rapidly than I can utter. Where did that trowel go? The acetic acid within vinegar possesses sufficient strength to eliminate rust, yet remains mild enough to avoid harming the underlying metal. Studies reveal that tools routinely cleaned using vinegar endure nearly 3 times longer than those left untended. Post-cleaning, I ensure complete drying. Damp tools offer about as much utility as a teapot made of chocolate. And during the soaking period, I fight the impulse to prepare a vinaigrette using that same vinegar. Certain substances are best kept separate. Repel insects with marigolds. The unassuming marigold may appear as merely another attractive bloom in my garden, yet it serves as a potent partner in managing pests, a reality widely recognized within Amish horticulture. These vibrant blossoms function like security personnel at a selective plant gathering, warding off undesirable insects from my valuable vegetables. Their powerful fragrance disorients pests, and their root systems exude substances that deter nematodes and additional subterranean nuisances. Evaluations demonstrate that gardens featuring marigold edging encountered as much as 60% fewer issues with aphids compared to those lacking them. I position them encircling my vegetable plots, and abruptly the garden transforms into the local area's restricted airspace for bothersome bugs. As my grandmother was fond of saying, marigolds resemble miniature golden watchdogs for the garden, only they refrain from yapping at the postal carrier or requiring twice daily strolls. Grow what you love. What purpose is served by cultivating produce I won't consume? Drawing from pragmatic Amish insight, I concentrate on sowing edibles my household genuinely likes. Research indicates domestic gardeners squander as much as 30% of their yield on produce no one desires. That trial artichoke bed may seem intriguing, but if my relatives find artichokes about as tempting as consuming pine cones, perhaps rethinking is warranted. I opt instead for popular choices such as tomatoes, lettuce, or culinary herbs I use frequently. The triumph of my garden isn't gauged by its diversity, but by the emptiness of our plates post-meal. A fellow gardener monitored his family's vegetable intake over 12 months and found they consumed snap peas 20 times more often than Brussels sprouts, Unsurprisingly, his garden strategizing became far less complex thereafter. I keep in mind the most flavorful vegetables are those that ultimately reach my dining table. Seed densely, then transplant. Within horticulture, density can occasionally be advantageous, a point any Amish cultivator would affirm. When initiating my spring starts, I commence by planting seeds tightly within a confined space, handling them much like adolescents at a live show, crowded yet capable of respiration. After my seedlings attain roughly 2 inches in height, I meticulously divide and relocate the most robust specimens to their permanent locations. This approach conserves area during the vital initial growth phase and permits my selection of the hardiest plants. Studies suggest that seeds planted closely exhibit a 15% greater germination success owing to collective heat and humidity. Moreover, it resembles organizing a botanical competition where all participants triumph. The most powerful secure premium garden plots, while lesser ones can be placed in containers or distributed among my neighbors. Plant seeds, point down. Following the example of generations of Amish growers skilled in seed initiation, orienting seeds so the sharp tip points down can markedly enhance germination success for me. It's akin to providing my seeds with a directional guide perpetually aimed toward development. The pointed tip inherently houses the root apex, and being pre-positioned correctly means the seed expends no effort determining orientation. Research indicates correctly placed seeds sprout as much as 2 days quicker compared to those sown haphazardly. Admittedly, this planting method demands slightly more effort from me, yet my seeds will express gratitude by emerging more swiftly than a groundhog at an outdoor meal. I just recall, this applies solely to seeds with distinct points. Attempting to locate the sharp end on a carrot seed could prove mildly maddening for me. Control weeds with vinegar or bleach. Combating weeds need not invariably involve costly chemical treatments for me. The Amish have historically preferred organic remedies such as vinegar and bleach to suppress invasive vegetation. White vinegar, containing 5% acetic acid, acts as a potent adversary to weeds, particularly during sunny conditions when the acid's impact intensifies. Research demonstrates vinegar can eliminate as much as 80% of weeds within a day of being applied. For more resistant weeds, bleach serves as the ultimate measure. I just bear in mind, bleach is more detrimental to the soil compared to vinegar. A fellow gardener I knew once remarked his vinegar application was so potent that even the dandelions began supplying their own vinaigrette. In all seriousness, however, I utilize these substances with caution. They resemble that acquaintance lacking boundaries, impacting all they contact. I ensure they avoid my treasured plants, unless achieving a desolate wasteland garden aesthetic is my objective. Feed tomato plants with banana peels. The banana I consumed at breakfast might hold the key to cultivating award-worthy tomatoes. Reflecting the zero-waste ethos of Amish horticulture, those skins deliver a potassium boost that my tomato plants desire intensely, much like adolescents yearn for pizza. I slice the skins into little fragments and enter them 1 inch below the surface near my tomato plants. While decomposing, they emit potassium, aiding in the formation of sturdier stems and richer-tasting fruit. Lab analyses indicate banana skins possess as much as 42% potassium, effectively serving as a natural power beverage for vegetation. An inventive gardener I know began referring to his plot as the Banana Republic following this technique, asserting his tomatoes became so large they required unique postal codes. I just need to avoid excess. While my tomatoes may adore banana skins, my neighbors likely won't appreciate the fruit fly gathering convened at my place. Enrich soil with crushed eggshells. Adhering to proven Amish methods, I use pulverized eggshells, which function as calcium boosters for my garden earth. Rather than discarding them, I retain the shells and allow them a renewed purpose nourishing my plants. I pulverize them thoroughly. Tinier fragments decompose more rapidly, dispensing their beneficial calcium. Studies show that soil augmented with crushed eggshells contains as much as 20% additional accessible calcium compared to soil left untreated. This supplemental calcium aids in warding off blossom and rot affecting tomatoes, and fortifies plant cell structures generally. Furthermore, the jagged edges of fragmented shells deter slugs and snails, which evidently dislike traversing what seems like a minuscule path of spikes. A fellow gardener I know jested that his plants received more calcium than his morning cereal, and his tomatoes raised no objections about needing their milk. Deadhead flowers for more blooms. Consistent deadheading resembles giving my blooming plants a neat trim. It maintains their tidy appearance and stimulates fresh development. Inspired by Amish horticultural methods emphasizing yield maximization via straightforward upkeep, eliminating withered blossoms stops plants from diverting resources towards seed generation. Research indicates plants that I deadhead generate as much as 50% additional flowers over the course of the season. I just nip or snip away faded blooms slightly above the closest viable leaf or bud. Every excised flower signals the plant to create more blossoms, similar to pressing the garden's update key. An avid gardener I know asserted his marigolds became so enthused by deadheading they began shedding their aged flowers independently, although wind likely played a greater role than any plant consciousness. I do recall preserving some flowers as the season concludes if seed collection is planned. Use predator urine to repel rabbits. Before I dismiss this suggestion with distaste, I reflect that Amish cultivators have employed this remarkably successful technique for garden defense. Urine from predators, human or canine, establishes an unseen boundary, causing rabbits to reconsider making my garden their private buffet. Studies show that gardens shielded by urine perimeters receive 70% fewer visits from rabbits compared to plots without such protection. I mix the urine with water, a ratio of 1 unit urine to 10 units water, and apply it as a spray along my garden's edge. A fellow gardener jested his garden achieved such high security levels that rabbits began donning miniature respirators. I simply need to be thoughtful regarding the timing of this repellent's application. My neighbors may not find it agreeable to witness my border upkeep amidst their outdoor cookout. Protect fruits with straw. Of the numerous useful pieces of knowledge I've gained from Amish agricultural groups, employing straw for shielding my low-growing fruits is one of the most successful methods. By establishing a buffer between the produce and the earth, I effectively provide a sanitary, moisture-free resting place. This straightforward approach diminishes fruit decay by as much as 60% and deters pests residing in the soil. It proves especially beneficial for strawberries, melons, and pumpkins in my garden, any crop prone to resting on the ground during maturation. Additionally, the straw assists in preserving soil dampness and inhibiting weed development, functioning as a versatile garden aid. I ensure the use of uncontaminated seedless straw unless I'm covertly intending to cultivate a cereal crop beneath my fruit-bearing plants. Mow grass when dry. Mowing damp grass resembles attempting to trim a soaked canine, disorderly and unproductive in my experience. The Amish, recognized for their precisely timed agricultural methods, realize that dry turf results in neater mowing and more robust yards. Dry grass blades stand erect, similar to miniature troops, facilitating cleaner, uniform slicing by my mower blades. Research indicates that mowing dry grass lowers the propagation of turf ailments by as much as 40% relative to mowing wet grass. Moreover, dry cuttings disperse more uniformly rather than forming those unattractive, dense clumps. A property owner I know asserted his lawn, when mowed wet, appeared as though groomed by an unsighted stylist amid a seismic event. The added advantage for me? My mower is less prone to blockage from damp cuttings, and the unpleasant task of cleaning beneath the deck becomes far less frequent. Water plants at night in summer. Based on generations of Amish agricultural wisdom, hydrating my plants post-sundown transcends mere heat evasion. It constitutes intelligent garden practice for me. Evening irrigation permits roots to absorb wetness without battling evaporation, a factor that can claim as much as 60% of water applied during daylight. The reduced temperatures provide sufficient time for water to seep far into the ground, fostering more robust root systems. I ensure application directly to the soil instead of misting the leaves, since damp greenery through the night may foster fungal problems. I certainly don't desire my garden to unintentionally morph into a fungi cultivation site. An experienced horticulturist I know once mentioned his nightly watering regimen grew so consistent, the local felines began synchronizing their feeding times with his irrigation system. Consider drip irrigation. The deliberate, consistent watering method favored by Amish cultivators demonstrates that, occasionally, gradual progress indeed prevails. Drip systems supply water straight to the roots via tiny apertures in plastic conduits, consuming as much as 50% less water compared to conventional sprinklers. Every plant in my garden gets exactly its required amount without squandering resources, akin to me assigning a dedicated hydration attendant to each tomato and cucumber. Studies reveal vegetation irrigated via drip lines develops up to 25% more rapidly than plants watered using standard techniques. Setting up a fundamental system requires no advanced expertise. If I can manage holiday light installation, I'm competent for drip irrigation setup. However, a fellow gardener I know asserted his system operated so effectively, his plants began dispatching appreciative messages to the utility meter. Place ice cubes for slow watering. Have I observed the knack Amish groups possess for devising straightforward answers to intricate issues? Applying ice cubes to water plants fits squarely within this realm of ingenious ease. I position a couple of ice cubes atop the soil and permit their gradual melting, offering a measured, consistent hydration that avoids inundating the plant's root system. This technique is especially useful for my orchids and similarly delicate plants averse to waterlogged conditions. Studies indicate plants hydrated insulate pots with wool socks. The unassuming woolen sock, commonplace in Amish homes, proves ideal for maintaining warmth around my plant roots amidst sudden chills. I simply slide a discarded wool sock onto the base of the pot, effectively providing a thermal garment for the plant's base. Research suggests containers insulated using wool sustain temperatures as much as 15 degrees higher compared to bare pots. The organic material captures air, offering superb insulation while avoiding undue moisture retention. An imaginative gardener I know initiated a local fad after his scabious survived an unexpected freeze. Abruptly, neighboring gardens resembled chaotic wash days. I ensure the use of unsoiled socks, unless cultivating a novel variety of foot odor petunias is my goal. Sprinkle wood ash on soil for potassium boost. Adhering to established Amish traditions of prudent resource utilization, the residue from my fireplace is not merely refuse for disposal, it's valuable for my garden. Wood ash holds approximately 5% potassium and 2% phosphorus, elements aiding in fortifying plant stalks and encouraging robust flowering. I distribute cooled ash sparingly around my plants, roughly 1 cup for each square yard. Additionally, the ash assists in counteracting soil acidity, although I avoid this technique near plants favoring acidic conditions like blueberries and azaleas. Horticultural tests reveal that plants receiving wood ash applications yield as much as 20% more blossoms compared to untreated specimens. I keep in mind that moderation is key. The objective is a gentle application, not simulating the effects of a volcanic eruption. Use onion skins as fertilizer. The thin onion layers I've usually discarded could possess considerable value for my garden. Inspired by the Amish principle of utilizing the entire yield, onion skins provide an unexpected nutrient boost for my plants. They hold as much as 20% potassium, 15% calcium, plus minimal quantities of magnesium. Essentially, a garden multivitamin. I infuse the skins in water for 3 days to produce a nutrient-dense liquid, or enter them straight into the earth near my plants. Studies indicate vegetation nourished with onion skin fertilizer develops up to 25% more quickly than untreated vegetation. A fellow gardener I know asserted his roses gained such vitality from onion skin brew that they began causing nearby blooms to appear lethargic. I just ensure the skins are buried adequately deep, lest my garden emit aromas reminiscent of a bustling French eatery. Place coffee filters at the bottom of pots. Embodying Amish pragmatism, coffee filters address a major nuisance in my container horticulture, earth washing out via drain openings. These simple paper discs function as miniature gatekeepers, confining soil while permitting surplus water to exit. Evaluations reveal pots equipped with coffee filter linings hold on to as much as 30% more soil amidst watering compared to unfiltered pots. I just position a filter at the pot's base prior to introducing soil, eliminating my future encounters with soiled watermarks on the patio. A container cultivator I know quipped, his filters pulled double shifts, straining coffee at dawn and earth in the PM. Furthermore, distinct from stones or pottery shards, coffee filters ultimately decompose, contributing organic material to the soil. That's what I call a beneficial outcome all around. Aerate soil with chopsticks. Drawing from the Amish tenet of discovering easy fixes for common issues, spare chopsticks from my delivered meals can serve as useful garden implements. I carefully create perforations in dense earth using chopsticks, establishing channels for oxygen, moisture, and nourishment to access plant roots. Research suggests loosened soil takes in as much as 40% additional water and nutrients compared to dense soil. This action resembles providing my plant's root system with a web of miniature passages for exploration. I simply insert the chopsticks into the ground at intervals of several inches, rotate slightly, and withdraw. An imaginative grower I know dubbed this method vegetation needling, and insists his plants appear calmer subsequently. However, should my plants genuinely seem more serene, perhaps reviewing other soil additions would be prudent for me. Place matchsticks in soil for magnesium. Occasionally, the most straightforward remedies arise from unlikely sources, a concept grasped thoroughly within Amish circles. Standard wooden matches, inserted into my potting medium, gradually emit magnesium during decomposition, offering my plants an essential nutrient enhancement. Sulfur from the match tips also aids in reducing soil pH, benefiting plants that thrive in acidic environments. Studies reveal plants receiving matchstick additions possess as much as 25% greater chlorophyll content compared to untreated ones. I position 4 to 6 matches surrounding each plant, embedding them midway into the earth. An eager cultivator I know asserted his plants became so verdant following match use that they began offering horticultural tips to adjacent trees. I do recall employing basic wooden matches. My plants require no elaborate waterproof or all-strike types for their magnesium needs. Make newspaper pots for seedlings. Borrowing from the Amish Guide to Inventive Horticulture, prior newsprint can transform into future garden receptacles for me. Fashioning newspaper sheets into decomposable pots conserves my funds and diminishes refuse, while providing my seedlings with an ideal beginning. Research suggests seedlings cultivated in newspaper containers suffer 40% reduced stress upon relocation compared to those started in plastic pots. Because the entire pot is plantable directly into the earth, the newspaper disintegrates over several weeks, enriching the soil simultaneously. An imaginative grower I know began labeling his newspaper pot assortment the Daily Sprout, yet his plants appeared more focused on development than on scanning the news. I refrain from using slick magazine's paper unless I desire my tomatoes to showcase current style trends. Put plants in the bathroom for humidity boost. Adhering to the Amish tenet of collaborating with natural elements, the inherent moisture in my washroom can establish an ideal microenvironment for specific vegetation. Shower vapor can elevate humidity by as much as 30%, fashioning a miniature tropical haven for plants that favor damp conditions. Ferns, orchids, and peace lilies flourish under these circumstances, transforming my bathroom into a sanctuary resembling a spa. Studies indicate plants residing in bathrooms develop up to 20% more rapidly than counterparts in the living area thanks to the steady humidity. A fellow plant lover I know claimed his restroom greenery became so dense he initiated levying fees for viewings, although that could be a slight embellishment. I ensure adequate natural illumination reaches my bathroom, otherwise my tropical oasis could become a final resting place for plants. Grow cuttings in a potato. Am I seeking a reliable technique for establishing roots on plant cuttings? This smart method, echoing Amish resourcefulness, utilizes the common potato as an organic rooting base. The potato offers consistent dampness and nourishment, while shielding emerging roots, boosting my success likelihood by as much as 70% versus conventional approaches. I just slice a potato crosswise, create a little cavity in the middle, and place my cutting approximately 1 inch deep. The inherent sugars and wetness within the potato encourage root development, and the firm pulp offers ideal stability. I sow the potato with the cutting directly into the earth, leaving only the plant stalk exposed. A fellow grower I know asserted his plants, started via potato, thrived so remarkably, they began asking for fried potatoes as plant food. I ensure the use of non-sprouted potatoes. Those aged tubers from my pantry's rear may harbor alternative intentions for my garden. Use lemon peels as biodegradable pots. If existence presents me with lemons, I transform them into miniature plant cultivation centers. Drawing from the Amish custom of employing all available materials, hollowed-out lemon segments serve as ideal decomposable containers for initiating my seeds. The citrus rinds inherently hold nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, enhancing the earth as they break down. Studies indicate seedlings started in citrus receptacles achieve 30% greater germination success owing to the rind's germ-fighting characteristics. I extract the pulp, create drain openings at the base, add potting mix, and sow my seeds. The complete unit is suitable for direct garden planting when the time comes. An inventive cultivator I know dubbed his citrus propagation area the Tart Start Nursery, although the sole tart element involved was the residual lemonade from the numerous prepared lemons. Sprinkle cinnamon on seedlings. Based on long-standing Amish horticultural knowledge, cinnamon now serves purposes beyond my kitchen. This everyday spice functions as a potent organic fungicide, shielding my delicate seedlings against damping off afflictions. Lab evaluations demonstrate cinnamon curtails fungal proliferation by as much as 80% relative to untreated earth. I simply apply a fine layer across the soil surface near my seedlings, imagining confectioner's sugar on breakfast toast, avoiding excessive amounts. Its germ-fighting qualities assist in inhibiting mold and mildew and impart a pleasing seasonal fragrance to my growing area. An eager grower I know mentioned his cinnamon-shielded plants flourished so effectively, neighborhood fungi sought legal injunctions. I recall, however, that minimal application is sufficient. My goal is safeguarding plants, not creating autumn-spiced garden plots. Sprinkle baking soda on soil. That basic container of baking soda residing in my kitchen might become my garden's latest ally. Based on Amish techniques employing common home products outdoors, baking soda functions as an organic fungicide and pest repellent. A gentle sprinkle fosters an alkaline setting strongly disliked by fungal spores. Evaluations indicate it diminishes fungal development by as much as 60%. I combine 1 tablespoon of baking soda per gallon of water for spraying onto plant foliage, or apply it directly onto the earth surrounding plants, preferring acidic conditions. The powder additionally disorients slugs and snails, prompting them to reroute rather than traverse the fine layer. A fellow cultivator I know jested his slugs began equipping themselves with miniature parasols against the baking soda downpours. I avoid excessive application. My garden requires equilibrium in its soil, not a reenactment of a school science project eruption. Add charcoal in terrariums. Following the Amish approach of establishing self-sufficient ecosystems, incorporating a charcoal stratum into my terrarium resembles fitting a natural filtration device. Activated charcoal draws in surplus wetness, strains out contaminants, and stops the unpleasant odor often arising in sealed containers. Research indicates terrariums featuring charcoal strata remain fresh nearly 3 times longer compared to those lacking it. I position a slender stratum amidst the drainage material and earth, effectively forming an organic filter within the miniature garden. A terrarium aficionado I know asserted his charcoal-enhanced arrangement grew so immaculate, his plants began organizing tidiness contests. I recall, however, the need for horticultural-grade charcoal, not remnants from my previous barbecue, unless I desire my terrarium redolent of the prior summer's grilling activities. Spread pencil shavings as mulch. Might my pencil sharpener conceal horticultural treasure? These minuscule wood spirals, akin to the shavings utilized by Amish artisans in their studios, serve as remarkably efficient ground cover for me. Pencil remnants are basically miniature cedar mulch, possessing inherent pest-deterring qualities. Studies show zones covered with pencil shavings preserve as much as 25% additional dampness compared to uncovered earth. I distribute them as a fine coating around my houseplants or potted arrangements. They excel particularly at discouraging fungus gnats. A school teacher I know began gathering shavings from his classroom device, professing his ledge garden achieved top planting status within the institution. I adhere to using standard wooden pencils. Fluorescent varieties could introduce unforeseen vibrancy to my garden's palette. Place old sponges for drainage. Aged kitchen sponges, perhaps finished with cleaning tasks, are ideally suited for my plant containers. Inspired by Amish practicality, reusing sponges as a drainage medium avoids excessive saturation while holding adequate wetness for robust root growth. Studies indicate pots featuring sponge drainage strata preserve as much as 40% additional moisture through arid periods compared to pots using conventional stone aggregate. I trim sponges to match the pot bases, where they function as miniature H2O storage units. Research determined that plants utilizing sponge drainage setups endure 2 additional days between hydrations versus those lacking them. A container cultivator I know asserted his sponge-lined pots achieved such proficiency in water regulation, they began providing advisory support to adjacent vegetation. I do recall employing unadulterated sponges. Items containing soap remnants could transform my subsequent watering into an unforeseen sud celebration. Add Epsom salt for flowering plants. Adhering to the proven knowledge of Amish cultivators, Epsom salt extends beyond relaxing soaks. It serves as a therapeutic session for my blooming vegetation. The magnesium and sulfur content in Epsom salt aids chlorophyll synthesis and encourages flowers to yield larger, more vivid blossoms. I combine 2 tablespoons of Epsom salt for every gallon of water, administering it monthly throughout the active growth period. Horticultural experiments reveal plants receiving Epsom salt mixtures generate as much as 35% additional blooms compared to untreated specimens. This magnesium enhancement proves especially advantageous for my roses, peppers, and tomatoes. A fellow gardener's roses became so radiant following Epsom salt applications that area bees began submitting top ratings. I avoid interchanging my garden's Epsom salt with my bath provisions unless an evening bath imbued with the distinct aroma of potting mix is desired. Cover pots with plastic bags for humidity. Fashioning a small-scale hothouse using plastic bags may seem like a contemporary technique to me, yet it stems from the identical tenet of resource preservation employed by Amish cultivators for ages. Placing a transparent plastic bag over my pots can elevate humidity levels by as much as 70%. Establishing optimal circumstances for cuttings and plants requiring high moisture. I ensure the plastic avoids contact with foliage, utilizing supports if necessary for elevation. This contained atmosphere aids in sustaining uniform dampness and warmth, accelerating growth rates by up to 25%. A plant caretaker I know dubbed his bag array the Covered Canopy Club and insists the plants initiated private gatherings beneath their plastic enclosures. I recall perforating several minor openings for ventilation. My intent is a hothouse atmosphere, not a botanical steam room. Spray vinegar for ant control. Do I wish to deter ants minus severe chemicals? This organic remedy originates from the equivalent pragmatic knowledge maintaining pest absence in Amish gardens. White vinegar interferes with ant pathways and disorients their signaling methods, rendering my garden nearly as traversable as a labyrinth lacking an outlet. I combine identical measures of water and white vinegar within a spray container, then administer around affected zones. Research indicates vinegar mixtures decrease in presence by as much as 70% within 1 day. The acetic acid component effectively obliterates the scent markers ants rely upon for navigation, leaving them more disoriented than a satellite navigation device underground. A fellow grower I know recounted his ant issue vanished so swiftly, he observed them departing with miniature luggage. I ensure the spray avoids my plant foliage. They favor their vinaigrette served separately, not applied directly. Rub aloe vera gel on plant cuts. Aloe vera's restorative capabilities extend beyond human abrasions and scalds. Borrowing from Amish traditional cures, the gel from this fleshy plant aids in mending plant injuries and warding off contamination on my plants. The inherent germ-fighting qualities of aloe vera gel form a shield over nicks and fractures on plant stalks, diminishing disease probability by as much as 50%. I just extract fresh gel out of an aloe frond and carefully put it onto affected spots on my vegetation. The gel closes the injury while supplying nourishment that accelerates recovery. A plant devotee I know insists his aloe-nurtured plants recuperated so effectively they began extending therapeutic assistance to other harmed plants nearby. I recall, nevertheless, that sparseness is key. The task is treating a plant injury, not hydrating an arid landscape.